Hey friends, Liz here to invite you to check out our Patreon. That's where we publish extra episodes every other week, and that's also where we will continue any series we're reading. So if you liked our coverage of ACOTAR, Guild, High Mountain Court, or Fourth Wing, check out our Patreon to continue those series along with us. We also let you know what we're reading each month in advance in case you want to read along with us too. There might be a few other surprises throughout the year for our patrons as well. You can get all of this for just $3 a month, so check it out and we would really appreciate the support. Anyway, on to today's episode.
Welcome to Your Safe Space, the podcast your partner, friends, parents, whoever thinks is dirty. Don't have time to read books? Want to understand the jokes and the TikToks? We got you, fam. We're the Spice Traders, and we deal in spicy books. I'm Katie, and I need it to make sense.
I'm Liz, and I'm hypercritical. As always, we start every episode with 3 things. The first is a generic trigger warning. You can find specific triggers for this book in our show notes, so please check those out. Also, we do use foul language and talk a lot about sex. If you have sensitivity to any of this, please give this episode a skip.
Secondly, we talk about books. The whole book, nothing but the book, so help me goddess. If you plan to read this book and don't want something spoiled right now, don't listen to this episode.
Lastly, we acknowledge that a good book can hit you at the wrong time. The views expressed in our discussion are our opinion, and we absolutely don't want to diminish the work and the talent of the authors in our community. That said, we have some notes. What are we talking about today?
So today we are talking about part 2 of A God of Moonlight and Stardust by Mina Brower. And this part will cover chapters 18 onward through the end of the book. And then at the end of our coverage today, we will go through our ratings. And then just a reminder that we will be interviewing Mina Brower after 2 weeks after this episode drops. So stay tuned for that. We've got a lot of questions, especially about the book and kind of where it's going. So I think it'll be a good conversation.
I'm so excited.
So to get into it, if you remember, at the end of part 1, Silas had dropped Rena off after their kind of like bike date thing. And Kalios like met them out on the driveway and then like did his overprotective dad thing. But then Silas leaves. But apparently between Silas leaving and Rena turning back inside, Kalios dis-a-fucking-peers. Because Rena just like even says, oh, I don't know where Kalios is. I'm going to go have a bath. And so that's what she does. So Rena's in the bath and she starts masturbating and trying to think about Silas. But before she can get too far, Kel is like knocking on the bathroom door and asking if they can talk face to face. And I'm like, this is just so far from chill or normal because like he's knocking on this door asking to see her face to face. And there's really only like, there's not really a situation that I could think of where someone's in the bathroom and could easily answer, yeah, just let me open the door to that. Like, I'm either taking a shit or bathing, and she's bathing. So, like, it's not going to be a quick, oh, yeah, come on in.
I thought that was so wild. And then this made me, it just frustrated me because later he's like, we were talking, we were naked. And I'm like, no, you were invading my privacy. Like, if you see the bathroom door is closed, come back later.
Yeah. And it's just such a weird thing to like, he just has this gross perspective about like her and her body and nakedness because like he realizes in this conversation that she's naked and then he can't stop thinking about it. So he leaves her alone and like we'll say that he says they'll talk later. And I'm like, I just can't relate to knowing that somebody's naked and being so distracted, being such a horn dog at the thought of somebody being naked in my proximity where I can't like function as a person.
What makes it even weirder is like he has seen her naked. They have had sex. They made a child. And you still have this little chill about it. Like, I get that was millennia ago and you've been mourning and she's back. Fine. But take the miracle out of it. It's like if my partner was in the shower and I just know he's showering and I can't function because he happens to be naked in the same building as me.
And you're just like salivating about it. Like, that's so creepy.
It's so creepy. And like, and I am attracted to my partner, but like I can go do shit while he's in the shower. Like, it's so fucking weird. Yeah. And they haven't even created a relationship. Like, she still doesn't like you, bro. You're a dick.
Right. And you're not doing yourself any favors by being this like creepazoid on the other side of the door while she's trying to take a fucking bath. Like, you went into her room, Did you knock? Did you just walk in?
Entered the room. Yeah, what if she was naked or sleeping? Like, she's still gonna be naked in her bedroom.
So weird.
This will come up later, but he just has this really gross sense of ownership, and not in like a I'll burn worlds for you. It's just gross.
Yeah. And it's not that kind of book. And so it's not hot.
It's not hot, but he'll say the things like, you're mine, I can't live without you. And boy, do I have thoughts when those phrases come out.
Oh, man. Especially when he says things like, you were made for me. Ugh.
And I was like, but you have only kissed. I mean, current time. It's gross. Ugh. There's a scene later. We'll get to it. But like, I almost had to stop reading because he just grossed me out so much.
Yeah. So anyway, after her bath, sometime later in the night, Rena goes out onto her balcony and is basically in some kind of like white or light shirt nightgown thing. And she sees Kel on the beach, and they kind of have this electric moment where he can definitely see most of her body through whatever she's wearing. And so he makes eye contact with her and like runs back into the house. And it's clear that he's going to like come and like find her. But before he can get there, she locks her door. And she can like feel his presence like on the other side, but he doesn't even knock. He just like knows that it's locked and like ends up walking away. And Ren is like kind of disappointed about it.
This whole scene was so fucking weird to me because I don't understand the like. I don't understand the magnetism that happened of her seeing him shirtless. He sees her and he's like, I'm going to go fuck that. And goes upstairs to find her. Like, it was just like a wild. And then she's like, oh, he's coming for me. Oh boy, I'm going to lock the door. Oh, he didn't come in. I'm like,
bitch, you locked the door.
Bitch, you locked the door. And then the timing gets weird, which I text you about, but they keep referencing this like balcony scene as being so pivotal and heated, and it just I didn't get it. And I like reading about like the held glances across the room. This just didn't do it for me because it just felt so 0 to 60 with no buildup.
Well, and it's just it's weird to me that Kel has at once no control over himself, but then like when he just like seems to get right up to where like he would get the thing that he wants, and then that's when his leash like snaps like taut. And I just don't know if it's believable. Like, it almost feels performative from the character,
yes.
Right? Like, I feel like Kelios doesn't want to, but he keeps like something that Silas or Nira or maybe his mom said, where it's just like, oh, she doesn't know you. Like, you don't even know if she's going to love you. Like, I feel like that voice like makes him stop because he feels like that's the thing that's going to get him what he wants in the long run, you know?
Yeah, I could totally see that. But it does feel performative. And I think that's why I can't get into it.
So the next day, Silas shows up and says that he's there to take Rena to the tomb to meet Yukara. But of course, Kelios comes out and interrupts them before they set out. And Kel like surreptitiously touches Rena on the back, and that's the only way that he feels confident enough to like stand his ground with Silas without like throwing a hissy fit and like keeping Rena away from Silas. Like, it's just weird. And then Rena herself can't help but wonder, like, if Kelios wants me so badly, why can't he just say it? Say it to my face.
Yeah. Say it to my face instead of being weird and protective and sulky.
Right. Which is why like all of this feels like the restraint on Kelios's part feels performative, because I don't really think that he cares whether she loves him or not. Because otherwise he would
I don't think he cares at all.
Making an effort to have a conversation about it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and even like, I mean, we'll get to the scene where he kind of tries to woo her, I guess. And she's a fucking horn dog herself. I kind of judge Ren a lot, but it's fine. But like, he's not even really trying to get to know her. Like, Silas keeps showing up and is like, hey girl, you want to go on my bike? And even this scene, he's like, hey, I know you didn't want to go out with me, so I just thought I would be near you, which was a choice. But like, he's trying.
Right.
Whereas Kel isn't trying. He's just being weird and protective.
But also, I feel like if we're comparing specifically Kel and Silas, like Silas has a much more like puppy dog quality about him, because he does just show up like in this scene where like, I know you don't want to go out. I'm just here to like make myself useful so I can be near you. And like, we don't have to touch. I'm not being creepy. I'm not thinking about you naked. Like, I want to be near you.
And that's more endearing to me than this, like, I'm going to loom outside your door and not tell you my feelings.
Right. And then the next morning, I'm going to like come up and like touch your back. Weirdly.
Well, and it's creepy. Like, and the framing of this scene is weird. Not to get too far in the details, but like, he's touching her back in a position in which Silas can't see that he's touching her. And that just felt weird to me, because it wasn't even like a possession, like ownership, like, oh, I'm gonna throw my arm around her, which would also be gross. But like, he's just like standing behind her, like stroking her back where he can't. It's so weird.
So regardless, Silas and Rena go to the tomb, and we find out that this is the tomb that belongs to somebody named Kira, I think, is how I read it.
I read it as Kira too, and I couldn't tell if you were hesitating because of the way you typed it.
Clearly voice to text didn't do me a solid on this one, but I think it's Khira, if I remember correctly.
I think so too. I read it as Kira.
Cool, Kira. So on the way, Silas has implied to Rena that this person was important to Yukara, but told Rena that like that's Yukara's story to tell, and like Rena will have to ask her about it. Once inside, Yukara shows Rena a mural of this person, and we learn that she was a great leader in battle. But when she was killed, she decided that she didn't want to be resurrected to live on Taria. The reason being, she was so tired of being judged and having to fight basically society for who she was, which turned out to be a lesbian, because she and Yukara were in love. And it's clear based on this interaction that Yukara's never really gotten over this.
No, and it's been a while. I will say, we didn't call this out in the first part, but it becomes more clear in the second part. I do like the representation of different sexualities in this book. I do feel like a lot of books we read are just like,
straight white people.
We're all straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I appreciate that we're not all straight white people. Well, I don't know what anyone looks like at all. I know what the guys look like, I guess. But, and Misha in the end is black. But I like that we have different types of people.
Yeah.
In this story.
I don't know why, but I think Nira in my head is Edna Mode. Just like taller.
I could totally see that. I love that.
So then Yukara encourages Rena to continue her training, her physical combat training. She says, quote, "No matter what Kel or anyone tells you, there will come a time when you have to fight for everything you love. Taria cannot protect you forever. You need to be prepared," end quote. Which I think is sage advice, and it's really the only advice that Rena gets that encourages her to take an active choice or participation in what's happening to her. Because Yukara is basically like, you could sit there and do nothing, or you could try to do something about it.
Yeah, and I suggest you do something about it. Especially, Yukara doesn't say this, but especially if you're not going to use your magic, you need to do something.
Yeah, and I say that it's one of the only times that somebody actively like tries to help her, because like we see other characters like Lavina or like Sethos like encouraging her to embrace parts of herself, but like Yukara's sitting here like literally handing Rena a sword and like attacking her. Like, you should train. Let's train right now.
Let's do this right now. Yeah, everyone else, and we'll get to the magic thing, especially with Kelios later, because there's something sketchy going on there.
Yeah.
But like, help her. And even Lavinia is just like, you should do this, but like no one actually tries to help.
Right.
Except for Yukara.
Lavinia's like, oh yeah, you should try to do that. And even I think Rena asks at some point like, how? And Lavinia's like, well, you're gonna have to figure that out, girl. I don't know.
Yeah, just like think happy thoughts. It'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I have a lot of trauma. I'm going to need a lot more guidance. Thank you.
Right. So when Rena asks Yukara if she's in danger, Yukara tells her that even though they haven't heard from Omre, that doesn't mean that she's safe. It's clear that Omre knows that Rena is on Taria, and so it's really only a matter of time before that comes to a head. So Yukara's then about to tell Rena why she's being hunted specifically by Omre and potentially about her past with Kel, but Kel himself shows up and interrupts. He lies to Rena and says that the only reason that Omre knows who Rena is because he saw Kel on Rena's college campus when he attacked them, essentially. Yukara obviously is disgusted by this lie, obvious lie to her, but doesn't immediately out Kel. All she says is, quote, "I can tell you from experience that it's not the physical wounds one remembers, but the emotional ones inflicted on us by the people we love most."
See her just like hard staring at Kel this whole time.
Yeah, the judgment just like flowing off of her in palpable waves.
Yes. And I'm going to call it out here because the timing in this entire day that we see is fucking weird. And this is the first weird moment. So like she's been with Yukara, I don't know, let's say 3 hours. She left Kel at his house to go meet Yukara, and Yukara shows up and Kel shows up and is like, "Hey, I'm here to talk to you." But like, bitch, I was going to go home. Like, why are you here?
Right. Like, I'm busy. You knew that I was going to go to the tomb. Like, I'm doing the tomb thing with Yukara.
Yeah. And he is like, "Oh, well, we'll get to it. But like, I have this thing for you back home. Let's go." And I'm like, just wait for her to get home.
Right. Yeah. So so the conversation kind of concludes, and we'll get to the thing that Kel's there for, but Yukara leaves, right? And Rena tries to get more information from Kel about like this whole concept, but he deflects by saying that he's got this like surprise and he's come to take her back home to see because he wants to like do something nice for her. Rena's frustrated because she's like, this isn't the right time to do it. And even like beyond that, Kel seems completely reluctant to apologize for anything, right? And Rena's point is like, this is kind of lying by omission, right? Like he's keeping information about her direct safety from her.
Mm-hmm.
But Kel goes on to say that he has a peace offering that he hopes that she will accept. But Rena rightly reminds him that it's not actually him who's done any of this thing for the peace offering, but it's Nira. Like he's directed Nira to like set this whole thing up, and like she's at the house doing it for Kel while Kel is there with Rena. And I'm just like, yeah, girl, fucking preach.
I do love every time she calls him out. She's like, "Oh, you mean Nira's surprise?"
Yeah. So Rena knows that Kel is trying to get her like distracted from how upset she is, but he uses the surprise that he's got for her plus flattery plus physical closeness to get her to give in.
Gross.
So when they teleport back to the house, we find that Kel has had Nira set up basically a picnic on the balcony with books and snacks and pillows and stuff so they can read together. Exactly like how Rena had said that she wanted to do. Like, you know, if she was alone in her free time, she would just read smut and like relax. So they settle in, but like immediately as they start reading, Kel tries to start asking questions about what Rena is reading. And she snarkily tells him, quote, "My book is about a woman who wanted to read a book, but kept being interrupted. The offender dies from said crimes," end quote. Which I thought was sassy and adorable.
I like Rena more in the back half of this book. I feel like she has more of a personality, especially where she starts calling Kel out for certain things.
Yeah.
And I wish we saw more of that in the first half, but she comes around for me and I'm like, okay, you're a heroine I could actually kind of care about what's happening.
Yeah, she starts to have these snippets of like, one, having a backbone and like not just being such a passive member in her own fucking life, but also of like having that self-awareness that I mentioned in part one. Like the book has been self-aware a little bit, like kind of schizophrenically self-aware, but I feel like more and more, especially toward the end, like it's clear that Rena is like with it.
Yes, which I appreciated seeing this little growth arc. Because even in this surprise, he's like, "Don't you like it?" And she's like, basically the effect of, "Well, I would like it if I was alone."
Right.
Like I said, I wanted to do this by myself.
And you keep talking. Like the way the scene unfolds, I feel like I've been there when like you wanted to do something and then like this dude who like you're kind of into is also there and just like makes himself a nuisance, but you also kind of want to get laid. So you're like, I mean, I guess.
Yes. Yes. It is a really realistic or it is a really relatable scene. It's like, okay, I am into you. You're really hot, but you're also really fucking annoying right now. I like all the things here. I think I like you. I just wish that we weren't all doing it together.
Right. I wish you would talk less. Forget reading. Kel distracts Rena with a question about how she learned magic. And though she doesn't want to talk about it, he does get the basic facts out of her. And I think at this point, this is like the third or fourth conversation she's had to that effect, which is going back to what we were talking about in part 1 about why this book feels oddly paced, because she's got like all of the people that she's being exposed to right now are new, right? And so she's essentially having the same conversations with each one of them, and we are here for it, right? Like I think this book could have benefited from a little bit of like show up late, leave early kind of thing.
Absolutely. Because yeah, in real life, you do have to have the same conversation over and over. But in a book, I don't want to read that. Like, those things can happen off page.
Especially when we're not getting any new information, right? Like, if anything, this conversation that we were having with Kel, like, it has less information than, for example, what she shared with Nira or Silas in previous conversations.
Yeah, it's weird. And it hurts the pacing of it.
Yeah. Anyway, in this conversation, Kel suggests that there might be a way to rid Rena of her magic completely through the assistance of witches, and he offers to explore that for her. He then asks her why she locked her door the other night, which was actually just the night prior, and so it feels weird that he's asking about the, quote, other night.
Yeah, I texted Katie about this because it just really bugged me. Like, he asks it here, and then he says in the same conversation, like, I wish I could go back to the other night on the balcony. And I'm like, dude, that was like 8 hours ago. What do you mean? This just happened.
You could be there right now. Like the energy is still around. Like you're basically in the same day.
It's weird. And I don't know if that was intentional or if it was one of those things where maybe in Mina Brower's timeline, this happened a couple days later, but that wasn't like well articulated, so it all happens the next day. But every time it said the other night, I was like, no, that was last night.
Yeah.
Not even 24 hours have passed.
It feels like maybe like in maybe first drafts of the book, like this happened at a different point in time, and then in the final cut it just ended up being like rapid fire.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit jarring to read when you're like, it's a little gaslighty to the reader, right? Because the characters are trying to make it seem like more time has passed than actually there has been.
Yes, it does feel gaslighty, and it made me so angry.
You texted that to me, and I was like, okay, when I take my notes, I have to like double check. And I like triple checked. I'm like, girl, y'all are crazy. Like somebody needs to get you a watch.
I'm glad you double checked, because I didn't go back, and it was fully possible that I missed like a couple days passing. So thank you for checking, because it was so jarring, especially to read it in one sitting. Like, if I had stopped in between the chapters, it might not have been so obvious. But reading straight through, I was like, what is happening?
So, as a product of this conversation, Rena does admit that she's into Kelios. And, like, he's like, cool, like, let's start something. But, like, if we do, I'm probably not going to be able to hold myself back. And she's like, bet, let's go. So they have a little bit of a makeout session, but when things start to escalate from just making out, this is when Kelios's like leash, like running out of length thing happens. And he tenses and tells her, quote, sometimes my mind gets really loud, end quote. And that ends the moment. And it's just like, this is why it feels performative, right? Because you say one thing and then you're doing another, but it doesn't feel genuine because he's not communicating like very well with her about like what he's feeling and what he's trying to do. And then in the like brief internal monologues that we get with him, he's like, oh, I'm just so afraid of her rejecting me. And I'm like, right, you're afraid of her rejecting you. You're not afraid of like how she's feeling, right? You're not trying to manage that. You're afraid of rejection. You don't care what she's feeling.
Yeah, which I think is a big thing to keep in mind with him and his sense of ownership of her. That is not love.
Right.
In my opinion.
Totally. So they go back to reading, and eventually Rena falls asleep in Kel's lap. And in her dreams, she meets up with Seth, but they're not alone. Rena is in bed with a naked Kel, and Seth is not super jazzed about that. And they have a little bit of a fight where Seth tries to get Rena to admit that she likes Kel, but she won't outright admit it. And so they start trying to bait each other into saying like that they're interested or that they like each other. And finally, Seth admits that he wants her. He tells her that their souls are bound. And she's like kind of caught off guard. She's like, I didn't actually think you were going to just admit it like that. Like, I don't really know what to do now.
And I'm a little confused because I have this naked guy next to me.
Yeah. So then I'm so sorry. Then Seth tells Rena to touch herself. And we get this terrifying scene where Dream Kel is used like as an automaton because like he opens his eyes and they're all whited out and it's clear that he's not actually Kel. He's just like a robot that looks like Kel essentially. And Seth directs this robot Kel to hold Rena still on the bed while Seth proceeds to eat her out.
There are so many wild things in this scene. First and foremost, Seth is like, oh, you want to sleep with him? And Rena's like, yeah, I guess. And he's like, okay, do it. But be careful where he touches you because I don't share. While simultaneously telling her that she can like hook up with Dream Kel in front of him.
So which is it, girl?
So that was weird. I'm like, okay, all right, fine. And then he wakes up and it's so fucking scary. And thankfully Rena is not into it, which is where this shifts to like, I'm just going to hold you.
But she's not into it. And then he's used in their scene. And I'm like, I wouldn't be into that. That's terrifying.
No, I'd be like, okay, also you're in my dreams. You have some sort of power. Can you just like poof him away and we can have our own moment?
Right. Because his white eyes are horrifying.
It's horrifying. And he doesn't talk. He doesn't have any personality. He just does whatever Sethos tells him to. Oh, it's so creepy. And you know I'm into restraint in smutty scenes. Not this.
No.
Not this fucking terrifying automaton thing behind me.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of things that didn't quite do it for me, there's something in the scene that I wish like I didn't read, which is Seth asks Rena for her to, quote, bounce her breasts on her palms for him, end quote. And that just feels like a silly thing, personally, to do in a scene like that.
It feels very just goofy and not sexy. Like, I will get out of the shower and like shimmy for my boyfriend, and it's not intended to be sexy. It's
right.
like purely like a stupid thing to do, and it's funny. Like, it's not cute. I had a hard time with this scene. There were like very brief, because the scene isn't short, and there were brief moments where I was like, okay, I could see how this could be hot. But then like the boob bouncing and fucking terrifying ass Kel holding her, like it was just so scary. It was like the other details were fine. I was like, okay, Mina, I am confident that you could deliver a good scene if you got rid of all this other weird shit.
Yeah. Well, I'll say one thing that I did like was that Seth really takes control over this. Like, as soon as he realizes that she's into it, he's like, all right, let's go. And then he turns into like a really communicative and like directive and like in control person, but not in a creepy way, right? Like that was good for me. I was like, okay, I want more of that, less automatons and less of the goofy shit. That would be great.
Yeah, because there was like this nice little slice in the middle where I was like, okay.
A slice in the middle and the slice at the end, because I'm mad that because they're cut off short, and we'll get to that in a second, but like by the back I'll say fourth of the scene, I was like, okay, let's go. And then we're gonna take care of Seth, right? And then it's just like, well, bam, you're taken out of it. And I was like, I know. And the dramatic timing was fine. I mean, it was good, but yeah, I was like, I see it. I see the potential. We just got this weird, scary, goofy shit going on. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, that the dream sequence sex scene was cut short because Seth bites Rena's lotus tattoo, and she says, quote, a powerful shockwave of blinding energy encased us, and my eyes shot open, end quote. And she wakes up and she's with Kel again, but they're screaming all around them because there are explosions in the distance, and they know that Amre is there.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, but
She
I had...
has this...
Go ahead.
Okay. So she has this moment when she first wakes up and she's like relieved that she's not naked. And all I could think about was that one book that she's having like dream sex with the demon, but her body is doing all the dream sex things by herself.
Oh my God.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
And I was like, thank God this was a regular dream and she hasn't just been like moaning this whole time, because wow, what a twist.
Wow, what a twist. Yeah, that one was, oh God, that was such a weird book. I forget the name of it, but yeah, no thank you.
I could picture the cover, but that was fucking wild.
That was some wild stuff. I made a prediction here, and I read this scene really closely to see if I could figure it out, because there are a couple of options for what happens at the end, and we can talk about them at the end, but I thought this might be one of them, because we get the information about Taria that only people who are invited know the location and can be there. And I was like, does she invite him in? Kind of like, you know, like a vampire, surreptitiously, he tricks her into like inviting her in kind of thing. Because then he bites her lotus tattoo, right? Which is like basically his mark on her body. And
yeah,
then like that blinding shockwave of power could have been him like teleporting to the place where it then gets attacked, right?
Ooh, I like that.
I don't know. And like I said, there's two other options. So we'll talk about them when we get there. But that could be one of them.
That's really interesting. I was a little confused here if the attack was on Talia or if the attack was on Zor. And they're just
Let's
like right
talk
next
about
to each
it.
other.
So
okay, great. Because I was like, what?
Because I have questions. So we fast forward a little bit and Rena is in her room waiting for news. She tells us, quote, what we had seen was an attack on the old city. Taria was put on lockdown as the gods scrambled to protect Taria's borders and begin damage control in Zor. Which is wild to me because, to your question, was it Taria or was it Zor that was attacked? I don't really think it matters. I think the point is Zor is right fucking next to Taria.
If you can see the light from an attack, you could have brought this girl to Zor.
Yeah, like it's just kind of because like Amre clearly knows where Zor is. He destroyed it once already. Like it seems like this place is a stone's throw away, right?
Yeah. And I don't know if it's because this is like a different dimension and on its own planet, but the spacing here was so confusing to me.
It's confusing, right? Like I don't know where Taria is in relation to Zor, and we get more information about this later that I have more questions about. So let's get into it a little bit. So Rena's feeling sorry for herself because her magic can't be of use to like heal anybody or like repair any of the damage, and she starts to spiral, thinking to herself, quote, I had promised myself that I would never feel vulnerable again, and now I was locked in a room until people outside of it came up with a solution for how to deal with me, end quote. And I'm like, yeah, girl, choices. You made them.
Yeah. And also, you could be working on your magic if you wanted to. People would probably help you, except for Kel, who I'm super suspicious of.
Yeah, maybe don't go to Kel. But speaking of magic, she's so frustrated that her magic does start to manifest, and she briefly sees black and green scales along the skin of her arms. But it doesn't last long, and she convinces herself that she was actually hallucinating. Before her magic can manifest further, Nira and Lavina come to see her. Lavina asks to speak with Rena alone, and so Nira leaves. And when she does, Lavina tells Rena that the old city and Zor were destroyed, but that no one was present for the attack. But she goes on to say that they are, quote, pushing the idea to the council that the explosion was due to a gas pipeline leak from a dig. Fine. But I'm confused because I thought Zor was outside of the boundaries of the council. Because I thought that was one of the reasons why, like, Rena thought that she could go to Zor to escape, like, the scrutiny of the council after the attack, the magic attack on her campus, because she floated that idea. And they were like, oh, no, it doesn't have a magical word like Taria does, so it's not an option.
Yeah, I thought that too. And I was really confused, like, why the council would need any sort of explanation.
Right. Like, you don't care. You don't. This isn't about you. You can't even sit with us. You don't go here, right? Like,
yeah, you don't need to know anything about this attack. These aren't your people.
So beyond the fact that I'm confused where Taria and Zor are in relation to each other physically, Or existentially, I don't know. Maybe they are in different dimensions, but it seems weird. And I'm also confused. Like, I thought the council only ruled over Andromeda.
That's what I thought too. And I was also confused about, and we mentioned this a little bit in the first half, but the old city and new city, which I get logically, but then the way it's talked about in the book, is a little confusing. Like, the old city and Zor was destroyed. Like, where is the old city? What do you mean? How was the old city destroyed and not the new city?
Yeah, and they kind of talk about Zor as like interchangeable, a city and a planet.
Yeah, and that was confusing to me. Unless they're all on one planet.
I mean, I could believe that Zor and Taria are on the same planet, but I would have a lot of questions as to why the gods made that decision after what happened in Zor. But like, it's just not clear.
Yeah, it's not clear. It's also, the gods aren't supposed to exist, so who are the people that are talking to the council about any of this anyway? I mean, I get they're probably like undercover and whatever, but like, I'm so confused.
I mean, I could definitely see the thing of like the council internally don't like believe in the gods and they like outlaw religion. But since gods aren't necessarily a part of religion in this book and they're just people with jobs, like I could see the council like interfacing with them kind of hypocritically, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, we have to acknowledge your existence, but not any sort of place of power.
Right. Because if you think about like the gods being immortals with jobs, then they're effectively a different ruling body. And like the council can't just like not talk to them.
Yeah, that's true. We could just make it so no one else talks about you.
Right. Anyway, Lavina goes on to remind Rena that Rena needs to access her magic and that she should continue to train with Yukara. She warns Rena that trying to get rid of her magic completely will be catastrophic. She then goes on to say that Rena is not like her mentor and she doesn't need to be like her mentor either. She then reiterates that Rena will go home before the equinox. She closes by saying, quote, "The gods will not always be by your side to deflect danger once you leave Taria," end quote. So then we get a perspective shift to Silas, who feels Andorra, quote, on the precipice of genocide. And he wants to try to prevent that, so he has gone to Amre to negotiate to try to get him to leave Andorra alone. But when he gets there, it's not Amre who meets him, but we don't get clarity on quite who it is. I made the prediction at this point that it was Sethos.
I did not, but I did make the prediction before I was told, like 3 pages before I was told.
Excellent.
So I'm getting better. I just wasn't quite there.
Yeah, I get it. We switch back to Kel, and Kel is at a council with the other gods. We learned that Kel neglected his duties, which resulted in moons not rising for some of Silas's planets, which is a little bit weird because I thought he was the god of the stars and not the moon, and that the moon was Nira's job, but I digress.
I thought that too, and it seems like they might share duties because because later Nira says something about how like Kel went off to be a mercenary, and so she took over like all of their duties. Mm-hmm. But that it was a little confusing to me because I didn't think that was his job.
Well, I think it was his job, but like well, you're right. I didn't think the moon was his job, but like even if it is his job, like I don't know. I just have questions about why they physically have to do that.
I know, and it feels like, and maybe this happens off page, but it feels like there should be more consequences than a hand slap for just not having moons rise on various planets, because they talk about how much that fucks up the planets, right? Like if our moon didn't rise, like all the tides get messed up, and it says that like a lot of havoc was caused by you not doing your job.
Right. And he's like, the elemental enclave is up my ass about this, but the only person that seems to give a shit is Silas, because Arios is just like, I'm sorry, were you talking? I wasn't listening.
Exactly. And it just seems like this is a bigger deal. And one of them, I think Kel is like, why don't you just make some new species? It might be time for some dinosaurs again. Snarf, snarf, snarf. And I'm like, fuck you. Do your job.
Do your job, dude. Control your emotions.
God, because like also, why are you not doing your job? Because he's just whining about this girl? Like,
yeah.
I don't like him. He's so unlikable as a character to me.
Yeah. He makes his own inability to deal with his emotions everybody else's problem.
Yeah, and I don't have time for that.
God, I haven't had time for that for probably the last 15 years.
Yeah, at least. And I'm not here for that. And I'm going to say this again at the end, but this is an ongoing series. And I really need it to be that that this pulls an Akatar and Kel is not Endgame. He is just a piece of shit. And Sethos is Endgame.
And yeah, same. I'm with you. So this bickering between Silas and Kel actually ends up in a physical fight between the two of them. And as they fight, we learn that Kel and Rena decided to get married. Well, she decided to be his consort within 3 months of knowing each other. And this was already after she had fled from her father and become a refugee. Silas goes on to say that because Kel had a lack of foresight, he doomed all of them back when Zor was destroyed, and now he's done it a second time. And essentially his point is, without coming out and saying it, like, Kel is so unorganized and distracted and like sloppy, essentially, that he's like not putting everybody else's safety above his own desires.
Which is totally valid. And Silas also points out, like, hey, girl was traumatized when she met you. Like, that may have just been a trauma bond, and it might not have been the great love you think it was, which was cold, but also might be true.
Yep. And internally, Kel tells us, quote, I hated Silas for making me doubt what I shared with Rena and what she and I could have in this lifetime.
But is he wrong?
Where's the lie?
Where's the lie?
So back with Rena, who is still trapped alone in her room, and she's trying to summon her magic. But her thoughts turn dark, and she's afraid to face them, so she gives up. She tells us that Seth hasn't visited her in days, and she misses him. And she tries to use that and a lot of other things to try to summon her magic, but she's unsuccessful continually over the next couple of days. But one day she gets a surprise because she wakes up and she finds a physical lotus flower in her room, and she hopes that Seth has not left her.
How?
Seth is already there, right? Like he has access to Taria since the attack.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's just walking around.
Right. But I don't know why. I hope we get more information about like why he's made the choices that he's making right now.
Yeah, me too.
So on the day that she finds the lotus flower, she tries to summon magic again, and she gets a small ember in her palms. As the days pass, Nira is Rena's only tethered to the outside world because Kel hasn't stopped by, and like I said, Seth hasn't reappeared. So Rena, frustrated, gives us a flashback to one of the interactions that she had with her mentor, specifically of him abusing her for trying to get ice cream with people and like make friends.
Jesus, so dark.
He ends this interaction by telling her that she doesn't have any friends and she's not worthy of any friends, so she shouldn't even try. This memory makes her angry enough to summon magic to destroy a mirror in her room, but rather than destroy it, it turns the mirror into a flawless pane of obsidian.
Which was pretty badass. And also, is that all your magic, girl?
I know,
What's
right?
with the scales that you're seeing and the green everywhere? Also, just to point out, not only has she been basically isolated to her room, but Kel removed her window and her balcony, so she's just in a cell, which sounds fucking horrible.
Yeah, that's a good point. I got so claustrophobic reading this part because we're in her room for what feels like a million years.
Yeah. Well, and we're not there yet, but someone later is like, hey, she's human and needs sunlight, and it's been like 3 weeks of no sunlight.
Yeah, she's basically a complex plant and you're killing her.
Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah.
So sometime later, Rena hears voices down the hall and decides to leave her room to follow them. She finds Kel and Yukara training. Yukara asks Rena if she wants to join, and Rena says sure. So during this training, Rena learns that Yukara and Kel have sigils, but Kel decides not to share what his sigil is with Rena, and I've seen foreshadowing before.
Girl, it's tattooed on your chest.
Right. And thus begins Rena's training in earnest, at least physically. She eventually ends up having both Yukara and Kel train her personally, mostly because Kel thinks that nobody can do anything as good as he can, and Yukara goes too easy on Rena. On one of these training days, we learn more about how Kel's former version of Rena, that Rena doesn't know that is actually her, died. So we learn that Omre stormed their bedroom on Zor and that his soldiers killed her. It wasn't even Omre himself. During this training montage, Rena stops trying to focus on her magic entirely because she's so physically exhausted by the training.
And it's like weeks past. Like this is a long time.
Yeah.
Block.
At some point, Kel finally apologizes for the distance that he's put between them. And Rena says, like, cool, I understand, right? Like, you're under a lot of pressure. You don't need to prove yourself to me. But, you know, I'm grateful that we're friends. And I'm like, are you, girl? Okay.
No.
And he's like, I feel the same way, but I want more. And so they both agree to, like, explore what more is, but to take it slow. Fine.
I have to point it out in here, too, because there's a couple times in this book where, like, just the writing is a little clunky, which we've talked about. And this conversation is one of those times. Like, Kel literally says, I'm sorry for the distance. And then talks about some other stuff. Rena apologizes for something else. And Kel says, no, I should be the one apologizing for the distance. Like, yeah, bro, you just did.
Right.
It's just kind of awkward. Like, it's like, did you forget that you already did that? We've moved past that part in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's intentionally a part of his personality, but Kel is not a conversationalist. Like, he's incredibly awkward to engage with anybody, right? Like, all of his interactions with Yukara, Nira, and Silas are also awkward.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to talk to people.
No. So more time passes, and at some point, Nira and Yukara convince Kel to lift the lockdown on Taria because the threat of Omre seems to have gone away. They also encourage him to let Rena have her, like, windows back because those have been taken away, and Rena is ecstatic when she has windows again.
Yeah, she gets her balcony back, and it's, like, the best thing ever.
And I'm like, girl, this is straight up abuse. You're a person. You shouldn't have to be, like, kept in a cell for your own safety.
Also, because everything, what really bothered me about the window thing, everything is an illusion anyway. Like, the ocean outside her window is all pretend. Like, the light is all weird and purple. Give her a pretend window. It's all pretend anyway. It's not like, I mean, we know that Omre, quote unquote, is already in her bedroom.
Yeah.
So what's he going to do? Look through the pretend window? Give the girl a window.
Totally. It just reminded me of that. I forget where it's from, but, like, I think the quote is, those who give up freedom for protection will end up with Mir.
Yes.
Anyway, another time they interact, Kel asks if Rena's been practicing magic, but she confesses that she hasn't. He then tells her that he talked to the witch and that there's a potion that will quell her magic for a period of time, though not forever. It's clear that Kel wants Rena to try the potion, but increasingly Rena feels differently. When their conversation ends, Rena tells us, quote, when he walked away, I realized what bothered me so much about his phrasing. He said, we knew what must be done, as if getting rid of my magic was a decision for him to make as well, end quote.
We don't get an answer in this book, and I hope we do in the future, but I think it's really suspicious that he doesn't want her to have magic, especially when everyone else is like, your magic is part of you, you need to learn how to use it. It's weird to me that he's like, and I don't know if it's just I'll protect you, you don't need anything because I've got you, or if there's some other motive, but it's sketchy to me.
Yeah, especially because he keeps harping on it when he doesn't really have a reason to suspect that it's, like, a problem, right? Like,
yeah,
it was a problem when he met her, but she was also in a state of stress, but it hasn't manifested since, right? And so for him to keep bringing it up is just, like, weird.
It is weird because even this moment where she's like, no, I haven't really been working on it. He's like, well, we can get rid of it forever. She's like, but we haven't talked about that.
Okay, yeah.
He's like, here's the potion. I already got it for you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not it yet. But still, I just don't like it.
So then we see Nira announcing to Rena that they're going out, specifically to a club that Nira has wanted to go to that's run by the goddess of lust, basically so they can blow off some steam. But of course, Kel meets them before they leave the house and tells Rena that she's not leaving the house dressed the way that she is. When Kel tries to dispel Rena's displeasure at him telling her what to do, he tries to use, like, sexual innuendo, and she slaps him, which I was proud of.
I was so proud of her.
Oh my God. And then she tells him that, like, this is not taking it slow and he's being an overprotective asshole and, like, that's not cool, and she's leaving. But then Kel Toxic Kel teleports Rena to his room and tells her that she's driving him wild with the way that she's dressed. But she tells him to stop because, quote, I am not yours to direct. And I'm super proud of Rena in this moment because she puts down some pretty firm boundaries, like how she expects to be treated and talked to. And specifically that, like, Kel needs to stop being so controlling. Like, this is unacceptable behavior. And Kel doesn't know what to say and so is silent. And she's like, okay, cool. Good talk, buddy. I'm leaving. And she does, actually.
I'm so glad that's how the scene ended, because when it started, like, I had such a whirlwind of emotions because I cannot tell you how much I hate the whole, like, I don't want anyone else to see you dressed this way trope. Like, you're not my father. And even if you're my partner or my boyfriend, you don't get to decide what I wear. And it's fucking creepy. And she has a line that I really liked where she's like, basically something to the effect of, what does that say about how you think about me?
Right.
Like, if you're worried about what I'm wearing. And I loved it. But then he teleports her to her room and they start for like a half second, get hot and heavy. And I'm like, I swear to fucking God, if this devolves into a sex scene, I'm not finishing this book. Like, I was really sure that's where it was going. And I was getting so mad. And then it didn't. And I was like, thank you. Oh my God, thank you. But it's in this conversation that he does the whole, I can't live without you. You belong to me. And it's like,
whoa.
So
she's like, I don't understand where that's coming from.
And I love Brenna. Like, the back half of the book, I really like Brenna, where all the things she says here, like, what does that say about you? I'm not yours to direct. You don't get to talk about how I dress. Also, this isn't going slow. You don't get to talk to me like this. I was like, yes.
Yeah. And like, so it starts with the comment about like when they're reading and she's like, can you not fucking speak? And like, it just iterates from there. And this is a really good example of like how she starts to have a backbone. And she's like, no, I'm actually not. I'm done being a passive like participant in my own fucking life. Like, I'm not the person that if somebody grabs my hand, it feels rude not to acknowledge them. Like, no, fuck off. Don't fucking touch me.
Yeah. And I love that. You don't get to say anything about what I do, where I go, what I'm wearing.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
So they go to the club and they get drinks. But Nira does this obnoxious thing where she keeps trying to encourage Rena to give Kel time. But Rena tells Nira that it's confusing because, quote, Kel treats me like we're meant to be. Yet when I ask him to elaborate, he can't, end quote.
Yeah.
And this is where Nira shares that after the second replacement wife died, Kel, quote, left suddenly to live as a mercenary for several hundred human years to separate himself from his past, period, end quote. And she says that his absence was felt hard at the watch because he basically left Nira alone to do like all of their duties, which it feels like it would have had a pretty significant impact on the planets. And like, I'm just wondering what that was actually like, given what we learned at the last like God's Council about him neglecting his duties for like just a couple of nights.
Yeah. And what that actually means if you neglect your duties.
Right. What are the consequences?
Are there any?
Did he just wipe out like half of living creatures because he wasn't there to like rise the moon or whatever?
Right. And he's just like, all right, Silas, you can just go ahead and make some new ones, I guess.
Yeah. So the conversation turns to why Nira wanted to come out. And we learned that in exchange for her godly powers, she was made to be celibate for her entire life. So she's never had sex, but she's always been interested in it. She wanted to come to this club specifically as a little bit of a rebellion. But their conversation is interrupted by Silas, of all people, who asks Rena to dance. And I'm like, of course you're fucking here, you fucking stalker.
He's such a stalker. Like, the only reason it's kind of endearing is because he has puppy dog energy, but it's also a little creepy.
It's also a little creepy. I'm like, why are you always where I am? That's not possible.
Home.
Go home.
No, it's so creepy. I think the only reason why I'm not creeped out by him yet is because Rena just like doesn't give two shits about him. Like, she's fully using him and is openly using him in her inner monologue. She's like, oh yeah, I'm dancing with him and thinking about Sethos's chest against mine. And I'm like, oh, Silas.
So Rena's like, I'll think about it. Go get me another drink, which I love. And so while he's gone, the owner of the club comes up. And remember, it's the goddess of lust, but we learned that this person's name is Misha. And she opens by telling Rena that she's not being sexually satisfied and that she should do something about that. And then she turns to Nira and says that she's glad to see her. And this is where she calls Nira kitty cat. And I cannot tell you how big of a puddle I turned into at that whole interaction.
Misha is so hot, and I really want to read the spinoff of Misha and Nira, and I need that to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna ask Mina about it because like I'm super into their relationship. We only see Misha for like 5 pages, and I'm like, yep,
I'm in.
I'm here. Let's go.
I'm here. Sign me up. I want to read the sequel.
Yep.
So Misha comes and ferries away Nira, and Silas comes back and again asks Rena for that dance. And she's like, fine. So while they're dancing, poor Silas, he tells her, quote, I would have given you the world. I could have unmade it and regifted it to you. I would have made a place just for us to exist far from all of this, end quote. He goes on to say that she deserves to know the truth, and it's clear that he's about to tell her everything about her past. But this obviously catches Kel's attention up on the watch, and so he beams himself down, Scotty, right into the club.
Kel, do your fucking job. We can talk about this later.
Bro,
Jesus.
Mind your own fucking business.
Get your head out of my ass.
So it's clear that this is just another manifestation of like overly toxic, jealous behavior. And he and Silas get into fisticuffs again. When Rena tries to intervene, Kel pushes her away and like yeets her back into the bar, which is not cool.
No, and he like throws her into the chairs.
I know. And this makes her angry, which makes her magic rise to the surface as she watches these two man-children fight. Silas is like feeding her information while he's fighting Kel, and he tells her that the symbol tattooed on her chest is Kel's sigil. And when she asks Kel if that's true, Kel doesn't say anything. So Silas continues and says that because of that tattoo, that's how Kel was able to track her. And he's like, my dude, Kel, were you ever going to tell your homegirl about that? And he's like, yes, I was, but I wanted it to be her choice because I didn't want her to feel like she owed me anything. And I'm like, you say that, your actions tell me otherwise.
Yeah, I don't believe anything he says.
Right. So then it all comes out that Rena is reincarnated and that Omre is her father and that, you know, she and Kel used to be a thing, to the point that Kel projects magically some of the memories that they shared from her prior life. And this is like so overwhelming to Rena. Rena tells him, quote, this is not love. You betrayed me. You lied to me.
Well, and I get why Kel wanted to wait, but I think by waiting, it doesn't matter when or how he told her, it would have been a betrayal.
He should
like,
have
you lied to me this whole time. Yeah. I said that in part 1. It should be like, hey, this is going to be a lot for you to take in, and I get that it's going to be overwhelming, but here's the thing.
Right. So this whole time, Kel has stopped fighting with Silas, and he's trying to physically like console Rena by touching her, but she finally explodes and is like, don't touch me. Yes. And she's trying to get a handle on her magic to keep her from exploding. But in response to this outburst, Kel says, quote, your soul is mine and I am yours. You belong to me. To which Rena tells him, quote, nobody owns me. And at that point, her magic explodes from her in these black, misty tendrils, and she doubles over from the pain and she passes out.
Which I love that she was like, don't fucking touch me and nobody owns me.
So this whole interaction was good. I love the justice. I love Rena coming to terms with like, fuck all of these motherfuckers. But it's just funny that it happens in the middle of a dance floor at a club with all of these other people around.
Well, that's the thing that is easy to forget about, that I could not forget about, because like we're airing all of Rena's baggage. Like, BT dubs, this bad guy is your dad, you're reincarnated. Also, like, you were my love and my consort, and you were pregnant and you died and now you're back. And also Silas has always loved you. And there's like 100 people just watching this go down. Like, and I will not let this go. Keliosh just yeeted her across the room. Like,
right.
We're also gonna physically abuse her as well as emotionally manipulate her and isolate her. Cool.
But also, like, the power dynamic in this is so fucking wild because, like, Kel is supposed to be one of the rulers of Taria. He's the dude that put the place in lockdown when Omre attacked it the first time, like a couple of weeks ago, right? So, like, he he owns these people, right? And he's just like totally showing his ass.
I don't know how anyone can take him seriously. I certainly can't.
No. Like, if I was Rena, beyond the fact that I'm like struggling to come to terms with these knowledge bombs, like I would be mortified to have this conversation in front of all of these people. Like,
yeah, like there was I understand that there may have not been a great time and place. This is the worst time and place.
It's hard to get worse than this. Yeah.
Also, I just want to point out that Misha and Nira have not returned, and I hope they're getting it on.
So they do come back at the very end of this, but like they miss most of the fight. But I hope they got it on too. So we switch back to Kel and we learn that Omre is back. And the wards around Taria are failing. So Kel orders Nira to take Rena, who is unconscious, back to his house. And then he meets up with the other gods. They realize that the wards need to be repaired. And anybody going to do this is kind of categorized as a suicide mission.
Send Kel.
Yeah. Kel agrees to go, right? But
good.
Yukara agrees to go with him. And the other gods, including Silas, give him the bit of power that he will need to do that. Before all of this happens, Kel and Silas just can't fucking hold it together, and they continue their argument over Rena, and it's just gross.
The fact that they continue to argue when like your biggest enemy and villain is attacking is just so childish.
Right. Well, and it's clear that like they don't actually care about like their responsibilities, right? Because ostensibly they're in charge of the well-being of everybody on Taria.
Yeah.
But they're putting their own selfish desires before that.
Just to fight over this girl who, okay, let's be real, isn't into either of you.
Right. That's the thing.
It's embarrassing.
So then Madeira shows up, and remember, she's Kel's mom, and she tells him, quote, "If Rena were meant to be yours, her presence in your life would be easy. Nothing connected to her has been easy. She has brought chaos into our lives. Let her go," end quote.
This felt a little unfair to me.
I don't know. I think she's got a good point. I mean, this obsession with Rena like destroyed their first homeland, and now it's happening all over again. And she's like, can you just keep it in your pants for 5 seconds, please?
No, I fully agree with all of that. Like, hey, this isn't the girl for you. But like, let's not blame Rena here. She didn't bring chaos on purpose.
No, totally. And I think she could have said it in a way that was like, hey, you're making bad decisions as a leader. It has nothing to do with Rena, right? Like,
yeah. Like, all of your choices are bringing chaos, and it's not a good look.
Yeah, she fully couches it as Rena's fault, and that's not fair.
That's the part that I was like, okay, Madeira, come on. Okay. This girl just learned everything.
Okay, internalized misogyny.
Yeah, that's the thing. Really, your son just can't keep it in his pants and is so immature.
He's the one. It's like blaming Monica Lewinsky for what Bill Clinton did.
That's the thing. Yep.
Anyway, Kel doesn't agree to do that. Doesn't agree to yeet Rena out of his life, but he does say that he will right this wrong. And then he and Yukara fly up to close the ward. When they get to the
they can fly now? Okay, it doesn't matter.
This was confusing. I didn't know if they were. I assumed that they flew, but they have to
Yukara
go
has
up
wings.
into the sky. Right.
Yeah.
Does she have wings?
Yeah, they talk about how she has like these golden wings that have sprouted, but I don't think she had them before.
Oh, okay. That makes sense for what's about to happen then. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're at this hole in the ward, and they don't find Omre. So Kel uses this as an opportunity to taunt Omre and tell him that Rena is mine, back off. Cool.
Okay.
But at some point, somebody says back, quote, "You have something that is mine." And out of the mist that seems to be causing this attack, some kind of serpentine beast appears, and this beast tells them, quote, "Omre is no more. 7 years ago, I scattered his remains across multiple universes," end quote. And then we learn that this beast is Sethi Boy.
Sethi Boy. I was so here for this. So it was like they were in the sky, and the line of "you have something that is mine," that's when I was like, oh, it's Seth. Yeah. So I did call it, but it was really close to the reveal.
Yeah. I don't super appreciate the "you have something that is mine" language.
Yeah.
But whatever.
But maybe he's not talking about Rena.
He could not be talking about Rena. I think he's probably
talking about
revenge
Rena and stuff. Oh, he's definitely talking about Rena.
But it comes off less creepy because at least Sethos is like, seems to genuinely care about Ren as a person. It's fine.
At least he's taken the time to get to know her.
Right. So then Yukara pushes Kel to like close the gap, and they go on the count of 3, and they're literally counting out loud 3, 2, 1. And then to their surprise, Seth is ready for them when they do the thing that they're trying to do. Like, but you were counting out loud in your outside voice.
It's the Austin Powers thing. Like, I can't tell you how my trap works, then leave you alone in the room and expect you not to escape.
Correct. And so Seth overpowers them, and Kel has to basically like sacrifice himself to plunge a sword into the beast's like chest. We're not sure if the beast dies, but Kel is badly injured and plummets back to the ground. And he knows that he's going to die, but just as he loses consciousness, he sees a pair of golden wings, which, based on what you said, I think is probably Yukara.
Yeah, I think Yukara catches him.
So back to Rena, who is woken up by voices somewhere. She's distracted immediately by the fact that her magic is seeping out of her body in black liquid that's pouring from her hands. And she takes this as confirmation that she's a monstrous thing, especially because she doesn't know if she hurt anybody during her outburst at the club.
Why did it happen at the club?
In the club, we all fam.
We all fam.
She sees a vial on her bedside table and knows that this is the potion from the witch that will cull her magic. But as she looks at it, she hears her name being called from the mirror that she had turned into obsidian. When she gets closer to it, she can recognize the voice as Sethos. He asks her to put the vial down and come to him. He tells her that it's time to come home. Rena feels in her soul that this is what Lavina meant when she said that Rena would go home before the equinox. And just as she's about to step into the mirror to go to Sethos, Nira comes to her room and tells her not to, but she doesn't listen, and she drops the vial and goes into the mirror.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she does.
So we get a little bit of wrap up from Sethos' perspective. We learned that he too looked for Rena after her death. He explains that they grew up together, and he always saw her as a sister since she's 7 years younger than him. But when they became adults, he couldn't help but notice that she had an interest in him, and he realized that he did too. We learned that he shielded a lot of their father's wrath from her, and that he's the one that arranged for her to escape and become a refugee. But of course, he didn't expect for her to find Kel and become his consort quite so quickly. We learned that 3 months after he arranged for her to escape, their father killed her. And after that, Seth bided his time to become stronger in order to overthrow his father. When Rena was reincarnated and Seth found out that Amre was abusing her again, he killed him. He tells us, quote, Rena going to Taria was my way to find the gods and exact revenge on all that they had done. And now that she trusted me, my revenge could begin, end quote.
The end of this book slaps, okay? Like, it is not without its flaws, but that final line, I was like, boom, mic drop. Okay, all right. I'm here for it.
Yeah, okay, but also, like, I have so many questions. Okay, so I want to make sure to go back to the thing that I said, because I think there's 3 possibilities for how Seth got to Taria. 1, Rena could have invited him in through her dream world. 2, Silas could have invited him in when he went to bargain with him, right? Because he went to go see Amre, and it was clearly Sethos. Or we now know it was probably Sethos.
And he was going to make some kind of bargain, it seemed like.
Right. Or 3, it could have happened like Silas accused, and Kelos could have led him directly to them when he like came down from the watch to get into the club. But that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because Seth was already there. He had already attacked right before
and he already left the Lotus. He already knew where she was.
Right. So I feel like he was already there.
I like the second one because I'm really curious about where Silas falls in all of this. And because that chapter where he goes to talk to Amre is like 2 paragraphs.
Right.
Like we don't really get a lot that happened there. Yeah. And I'm really curious because then is that why was this all a plan for this timing? And then that's actually why Silas went to the club. And then Kello showed up like an idiot. And Silas is like, all right, let's get it all out in the open now.
Yeah. Possibly. I like that.
To kind of drive Rena to Seth?
Maybe. But then I have questions about also what was said in this last line, because he says, it was my way to find the gods and exact revenge on all they had done. Girl, what did they do?
Okay, that's the thing. That's what I was kind of referencing with like the something that is mine. He was referring to Rena, but there's other things that Sethos is worried about that I don't think has anything to do with Rena. Like, he got his revenge for Rena when he killed Amre. What did the gods do to you, bro?
Right. Well, and in the beginning, like, layout of like the history, like maybe you could argue something about the original war was a problem, but like Amre by himself was an asshole, right? So like, it's not like it's the god's fault that your dad sucked, right? So
yeah,
it had to be something outside of that.
Yeah, I think it's something separate.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what that is. I've just like the first 2/3 of this book were so slow and like a little bit stilted, but like the back third really makes up for it, I think.
It really does, because I said this in the first half, and I'm going to be really honest. Like, I had a hard time in the first half of this book. Like, I wasn't enjoying it. I didn't like where it was going. But I think Rena's character development and, like, coming to her own, her strength is going to be really interesting to see how that plays now that she's on the perhaps wrong side of history. But then who the fuck knows? Because what did the gods do?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So before we talk any more about like the book and how we thought about it, let's get into our ratings. So, Liz, how did we rate The Spice?
Oh, we gave The Spice a 2, and we really only get one scene, right? I mean, we get a couple like masturbation scenes, but we only get one scene with someone else. And honestly, it would have been a 3 for me if we didn't have Kelios there. Even like the weird boob bouncing, I could have accepted, but having the terrifying automaton really hurt my visual of that scene because it was just so fucking scary. It
really took me out of the fantasy. Like, that was horrifying.
Yeah, and I like restraint, and like, I mean, he has magic. He could have just like turned him into some vines or something, or like poofed him away.
Yeah.
The boob bouncing was goofy, but like, whatever, I could give that a pass. It was the terrifying automaton really knocked it down for me. But everything else in that scene was good. So I do have faith that we could get some really good scenes, especially now that she's actively with Sethos in like the tangible world in book 2.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
So going into writing style, we both gave that a 2 as well. And I think we've called out some examples of why. There was just like some clunky things about the story that didn't translate well. And, you know, the formatting was fine, and there weren't like any like typos or anything like that. So it's not really that. It's really about like could it have been edited down? Could it like did the things make sense in context? And there were some things where we were talking about the other night when it was last night, having multiple conversations with the same people over and over again, not giving us new information, giving us details that didn't really matter, like that kind of stuff. Like I think we could have gotten a much tighter story and focused on cooler aspects of it if we weren't focused on some of those more esoteric things that didn't matter.
Yeah. Also, there just wasn't a lot of world building, which is a bummer. And that kind of goes into storytelling, but like it is in writing style. Like, I don't know what anything looks like. And to point out, we didn't say it in our coverage, but we literally only find out what Rena looks like in the very last chapter when Seth describes her. And that's wild to me that we go through 400 pages and don't know until the end. And we get lots of descriptions about the other people, but like, I don't know what the watch looks like. I don't know what the house looks like. I know that there's like this purple light, but the most world building I get is Kelios's house. And I wish I knew more. Like, I don't know where Zor is in relation. There's a lot of confusing things that also take me out of the fantasy.
Yeah. So that's a good segue into quality of storytelling. How do we rate that?
We rated that a 3, and it really did come back in the back half. I like I was almost tempted to give it a 4, but the clunkiness in the first half and the confusion in the first half does knock it down a peg. Like if I was just grading the back third, it would be a 4 because it's so good. But it is brought down from just, we don't get that world building. The timing is weird. The pacing is kind of weird. We get great character development, which I appreciate. I have questions. So I have 2 sets of questions. I have the questions that bother me that I have, like, what the fuck is the watch and what are the gods' jobs? And then I have the questions that are like good story questions, right? Like, what did the gods do to Sethos? And why does Kel want her to not have magic? And why does she see scales? Is that just Sethos? Like, are there other things? What is her magic? Like, those are the questions that are great questions for me to have.
Yeah, totally.
But I wish I didn't have the other ones.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we wrap the feedback from writing style and quality of storytelling, like there are so many good bones here. And if we just like shifted the focus and like edited it differently, I feel like we could get to a really cool place, especially because this is the first book. It's her debut book. It's self-published, like all of those things. I feel like we only have up to go from here. And I'm locked in for the story. Like I want to find out what this is. I like Sethos of the 3 guys. Like he's the only one really that I hope is endgame. And like Rena did start out kind of as a paper bag, but now she's got like a personality and at least like standing up for herself kind of thing. And I'm excited to see where that goes in the next book.
Me too. And I am locked in. I really want to know what happens. Like at the halfway point, I was like, okay, this is fun, but I don't really know. Now, like I want to read the second one. I want to talk about it. And I do think the bones are here for such a good story and such interesting characters that, like you said, I think we can only go up.
So that brings us to, do we recommend it? And yes, we do.
Yes.
I would recommend it in like, you just have to get past the 50% mark.
Yeah, which is usually not something I would say, but the back half just, it slaps, man. Like it's worth the first half. It's
not that long.
Yeah. No, it's not that long, and it is worth it. And it's fun to see the development, especially Irena.
Yeah. All right, guys, we did it. Those are our thoughts on God of Moonlight and Stardust by Mina Brower. Thank you, as always, for joining us on this journey. Let us know what you thought on the socials. You can find us on YouTube, TikTok, and Goodreads at Spice Readers Pod. And of course, if you like our podcast and want more, consider joining our Patreon, where we release Patreon exclusive episodes on our off weeks. Book 2 is going to be covered on Patreon here. And so if you like this and you like our interview with Mina Brower, consider tuning in for Book 2. And if you really, really like us, drop us a review wherever you listen. Until next time, we'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.